We are following breaking news here on Eyewitness News at noon. This is a live look outside of the Manhattan courthouse in New York City. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Silvia Flores are expected to make their first appearance in front of a judge right now at noon. The couple was captured over the weekend in a military operation early Saturday morning. The couple arriving in New York, you can see here, by helicopter, heavily guarded by DEA agents. Good afternoon. I'm Darlene Jones. According to a federal indictment, the couple is accused of conspiring with violent drug traffickers for the last 25 years. Here is what we know about this investigation right now. The couple was taken to the courthouse in an armored motorcade with a heavy DEA presence. Again, you saw them getting off the helicopter there. Maduro has retained Barry Pollock as his lawyer. You may recall he represented Julian Assange, who founded a site called WikiLeaks back in 2006. He was later charged with violating the Espionage Act for publishing classified information on that site in 2010. A Texas attorney, Mark Donnelly, is representing Maduro's wife. Coming up, we'll have more on Venezuela's future and what's next in all of this. But first, let's get you over to Channel 9's Sabrina Majore, who is monitoring these major developments here. And Sabrina, we just heard from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Darlene, all across the state, people are continuing to react to the arrest of Maduro and the U.S. operation in Venezuela. Data from the Puerto Rico Research Hub says as of 2021, more than 65,000 Venezuelans were calling Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties home. So it's a large population locally, many of whom told us this weekend they were celebrating Maduro's arrest, though some did protest the U.S.'s actions, claiming this was an act of war not approved by Congress. The U.S. seized Maduro and his wife in a military operation Saturday. They were captured in their home on a military base. Trump said the U.S. would run Venezuela temporarily, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio later clarified the U.S. would not govern the country day to day, other than enforcing an existing oil quarantine. Today, we've heard from lawmakers, including Rick Scott and Governor Ron DeSantis, praising the U.S.'s mission.
He deserves to be brought to justice, and my sincere hope is that the people of Venezuela are going to be able to liberate themselves from the yoke of the Chavez-Maduro reign, because it has been one of the most destructive reigns of any in the Western Hemisphere's history.
And Central Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost also weighed in over the weekend, saying this is a moment that carries many feelings across the Venezuelan diaspora because Maduro was, quote, a brutal dictator and authoritarian. He went on to say that what you can see here, what President Trump is doing in Venezuela is illegal, dangerous, and outside of the bounds of his constitutional authority. Darlene?
All right, thanks, Sabrina. President Donald Trump says the U.S. is now in charge of Venezuela. But again, you're hearing Secretary of State Marco Rubio clarifying that, indicating the U.S. will not be in charge of day-to-day operations. It's unclear, though, what more American involvement will look like. Perry Russum has more from Washington.
Major questions today about what role the U.S. will play in governing Venezuela after the capture of President Nicolás Maduro. President Trump says the U.S. is running the country.
Don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Just hours after his Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggested the U.S. will not govern the country of more than 31 million people, but pressure Venezuela with a military blockade on oil leaving the country.
What we are running is the direction that this is going to moving forward, and that is we have leverage. This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already.
President Trump, who campaigned on getting the U.S. out of foreign wars, appears to be open to the idea of having American troops on the ground, saying, quote, it depends on what happens. Venezuela is home to the largest oil reserves in the world. Trump says he wants total access to it.
We need total access. We need access to the oil and to other things in their country that allow us to rebuild their country.
There's pushback from Trump's own party. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie writing online, wake up MAGA. Venezuela is not about drugs. It's about oil and regime change. This is not what we voted for. Tonight on Capitol Hill, lawmakers and the Gang of Eight are expected to be briefed behind closed doors on the actions in Venezuela. Members of Congress were notified after the operation began.
It's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
Delcy Rodriguez is being sworn in today as the interim leader of Venezuela. She was Maduro's vice president. She says she is willing to work with the U.S. after President Trump said if she did not cooperate, her fate will be worse than Maduro's. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
More details now on Nicolás Maduro. He assumed power in Venezuela in 2013 after the death of President Hugo Chavez. Since then, the economy in Venezuela has sharply declined, and the government there has been accused of severe human rights violations. At least 7 million Venezuelans have left the country since 2015. Tens of thousands have settled right here in Florida. And here is another live look outside of that courthouse in Manhattan, where the judge will be considering whether or not to grant bail for Maduro and his wife. Maduro is unlikely to be granted bail. The judge will also likely lay out a schedule for this case and possibly a trial date. We will continue to monitor those live developments and bring them to you here as we get them into our newsroom. Channel 9 will, of course, bring you the latest developments here on air and online at WFTV.com.